Vision Africa is an intentional mandate to get Africa out of zombieism syndrome. Africa is a potential traditional revenue, an economy boost. More than $500 billion has been added to the African GDP in just 10 years. Vision Africa is the convener of the United Nations of Africa, UNA. African leaders must stop begging their colonial masters. As a matter of fact, there are no more our colonial masters. The past is past, it's gone. Leadership sacrifice is the game changer to achieving the expected result of any country. Vision Africa plan is to raise 100,000 billionaires and 200 million millionaires before 2050. So I'm hereby saying today that Africa first, Africa first.
I am your host Gaurav Garg and we welcome all our viewers to our show Amazing Mentor. Today with us is amazing mentor and visionary, Your Highness Dr. O. Favour, the founder and global executive chairman of VisionAfric's. Discover how VisionAfric's ambition AYODELE 2050 agenda aims to transform Africa into a global superpower and unite African Diaspora. Learn about the innovative strategies including the African global economy, African Textile Museum, African Tech and Innovation Tournaments, and Global African Records, which are set to shape Africa's future. Get ready to explore the potential impact of this visionary initiative and how they can change the narrative of Africa. Don't miss the opportunity to be part of the conversation and support the unification and transformation of African continent. It's a pleasure to welcome Your Highness Dr. O. Favour to our show, Amazing Mentor. Welcome, sir.
Thank you so much, my dear brother, for having me once again. I'm very grateful.
My pleasure, sir. So, Dr. Favour, can you tell us more about VisionAfric's AYODELE 2050 agenda and its main goals for transforming Africa into a global superpower?
Yeah, thank you once again, my dear brother. Africa Vision 2050 Agenda about 2050 is Africa's visionary mission by Vision Africa for the drastic development in Africa. Currently, Africa is 1.4 billion, and by 2050, we know that Africa will be 2.5 billion. So, significantly, it is a numerical capital that has the potential powers to place Africa above other continents. So, with that, we are targeting this particular time that before then, Africa should be able to have its roots and transformation ready.
So could you explain the significance of unifying the African Diaspora and how it contributes to the development of African continent?
Thank you for that brilliant question. More than 250 million Africans living in diaspora. That number alone is enough to turn the whole Africa continent around. When you look at the rate of development that has taken place in United States of America, Europe, Asia, so on and so forth, the effect of Africans through their expertise, service, intellectual capacity, talent, skills, and their workforce, know that this has contributed tremendously in those countries. The remittance of Africans in diaspora to their various countries in Africa is a potential traditional revenue, an economy boost. More than $500 billion has been added to the African GDP in just 10 years. I will tell you now, consider the previous years, what they had done to increase the economy of Africa. So Africans in diaspora are capital revolutionists, that's what I can call them, for Africa's development. Vision Africa is using a platform, by the grace of God, is using a platform to mobilize, to engage in practical investment with the diaspora. That is the way forward to get Africa facelift. That being said, we believe that the age, the ATM, what I call African Textile Museum, and other related vision that we have set aside, it has a potential element that we will use to put all these things together.
So the African global economy, African Textile Museum, African Tech and Innovation Tournament, and Global African Records are innovative strategies. Can you elaborate on how each of these initiatives will impact Africa's future?
Thank you, Dwayne. It is no more news that the concentration of the world is now on Africa. And so, therefore, it's expedient to move swiftly from the dogmatic talking arena to the pragmatic resort zone. That being said, where everyone will see the transformation on the go. Okay? Vision Africa primary agenda to unify Africa calls for immediate workforce among Africa's advocates and patriots whose interest is solely, for Africa's deliverance and our future. We therefore present some of our summarized visionary drivability, industrial institution, and architectural infrastructure, which we have mentioned, and that is African Global Economy, H, African Textile Museum, African Tech and Innovation Tournaments, Global African Record, call it GA. So let me just take it one by one. African Global Economy, H, serve to create a true economic independence based in Africa through VisionAfric's e-commerce, e-bank, modern agriculture, organic healthcare, wealth creation, food security, sport, health and culture, entertainment, data economy, affordable housing unit, infrastructure, technical education, business, trade, innovation, mega project, etc. to advance Africa. Now, we talked about African Textile Museum, ATM, is configured as one of the VisionAfric purpose-driven, indigenous, sustainable agri-tech solutions to solve African problem for the economy resourceful integration. While African Tech and Innovation Tournament, ATIT, serves as an organic, advanced, tech-driven solutions to Africa's digital world through talent, creativity, and capital investment. ATIT is formed to harmonize, organize, concretize, mobilize, unify, and promote African brains with out-of-the-box transgenerational tools. We believe in that this is the way forward. African Tech Innovation Tournament will help Africa beyond something that global competition has been engaging in over the years through talent, creativity, and investment. So what we are saying is that Global African Record, that is GA, is an Afrocentric glamour record, an award for Africans who exhibit outstanding skill, talent, expertise, and those who have created tremendous impact in various levels, sectors, industries, and African institutions globally. GAD is created to sustain African value-driven talent, intelligence, and legacy through historical acknowledgement and indigenous events in conjunction with African award platforms. So the above strategy, we create and enhance unification and inclusivity of Africa as a thematic integration magnet. This is what I can tell you about what we have initiated so far.
Great. So how can an individual, organization, and philanthropist from around the world join and support Vision Africa's mission to empower Africa?
First and foremost, they must recognize and admit to walk the talk. Our working in the area of engaging proper orientation of what we have discussed is to give all individuals potential platform. So they must acknowledge and recognize and admit as well to our work the talk movement, because VisionAfric is an intentional mandate to get Africa out of zombieism syndrome. That's number two. Now I can say that through our African project investment initiatives, once they acknowledge their areas of interest in our strategic listed project, it will help and boost the morale to join us. And number three, we can collaborate. We have various social platforms, but especially on WhatsApp and LinkedIn, they can as well subscribe to our YouTube and website channels. This is legit way to put our hands on deck and move Africa forward.
So what role can media play in shaping the narrative for Africa and supporting Vision Africa's initiatives? Media
is golden in this era. They literally dictate everything out there, both the good and the bad narratives. And they control everything. The media is controlled. The media control all the platforms, and so on and so forth. We are calling on genuine media platform to raise the bar of good narrative about Africa. It is very important to guide against fallacies, bad representation of Africa's story. Very, very, very important. Anything against Africa development should by all means be out of public domain. This is how we can move Africa forward. Fake stories are out there, and we don't want it to shock us. We want anything that's going to sabotage the interests of Africans all over the world.
So what challenges and opportunities do you foresee on the journey towards achieving the AVA 2050 goal?
Well, from my own angle, number one, lack of synergy. Different organizations doing the same thing is not healthy. We need to come together That is why VisionAfric is established, to concretize, organize, mobilize, all this. We need to eliminate egocentrism, self-centeredness, and selfishness. And then number 2, internal betrayal. We must, at all costs, disengage any traces of internal manipulators, double-crossing projects, or double-crossing ourselves is not healthy in the name of self-centeredness, self-seeking favor, or bad-mouthing. So because of self-gain, that won't take us anywhere. It won't take us anywhere. So I like the Nepalese, Indians, Chinese, and some other countries like that, the orientation about help culture. The unification of Africa is embedded in how much love, trust, support, and patriotism we have for Africa. So, and I will say that number 3, traitor is rhetoric syndrome. It is possible to do without it. But this time around, it's a norm. So what we are saying is that we do our best to ensure to keep our table clean and right with right people. That is what I believe can help us to escape all these kind of challenges that may want to cross our way.
So what's your vision for Africa in 2050 and how it aligns with the United Nations of Africa concept?
Africa Vision 2050 agenda powered by VisionAfric is an intentional measure to create fundamental advancement in Africa by Africans with 21st century mechanisms that will help to facilitate potential investment across African countries and the diaspora. And for your information, VisionAfric is the convener of the United Nations of Africa, UNA. So Vision 2050 is basically the rebirth of Africa as one nation. This will unify, harmonize, concretize, like I said, reform African mind, and disband oppressive Western power against African child, or better said, African children. So wherever we are. So my vision is that, let me just point something that's taking effect, and one of it is that African digital passport and visa-free policy within African regions. And I'm going to explain a little part about African digital passport. What is currently going on right now is free visa. Thanks to God, for 1 or 2 leaders that have taken our petition and have also leveraged on what we have been talking about since ages. The unification of Africa can't have a meaningful result without free movement within African nations. It has been a huge challenge for decades when our fellow Africans will be traveling within African nations with visa restrictions. If Africa must survive the threat and the lordship of colonial masters, the African leaders or leadership must have a unified agreement with concrete constitutional policies. And of course, border security can still be technically applied in general terms of immigration on tourism, business, and other related activities. Visa-free policy will have a colossal impact as it stands to create and set Africa for a global superpower. And I have this mindset that Africans can be treated like strangers in their own land and expect to be respected somewhere else. No. So visa restriction is a suicidal plan on Africa's economic liberation and development. I have another concept, one African language adoption. But I said I want to quickly explain the visa African digital passport. We will ensure that you can take the passport from your home, at the comfort of your home, where we don't need visa at the embassy anymore. If we have one passport, we should not be lobby how to get visa. And if there will be visa at all, the synchronization of data will have helped our government to see that okay, you can apply for it right from your comfort place of abode. That being said, we want to create a passport that is not with papers. It's going to be paperless passport, like ID card. When you want to apply for your visa, maybe student visa, maybe visiting, business, or whatever visa you want to get, it will come as a code or with a code. So it will be a code kind of visa, code generated visa. So it is when you go to the airport that you will see the type of visa you applied for. That is when you're about to travel. They will just plug it into their machine, they will read it. So we want to eradicate paper stamp, all this kind of stamp, visa kind of. That is the one of the vision of VisionAfric. So that's why we call it digital passport. African digital passport. So it's going to be a visa-free within Africa. At the same time, you can travel all over the world, and we want to establish that the government of the world endorse this. We do not need visa to any part of the world. That is one of the vision. Then we talked about one African language adoption. It is not news that Africa is diverse with culture, indigenous languages, etc. 1,500 languages are spoken across Africa. a continent with 1.3 billion, if not 1.4 billion, with almost 200 million African descent in diaspora. That is so awesome. However, to achieve the unification of Africa as one nation, adoption of one language as primary general language is a must. And as the benefit is numerous, let me just point one or two. A family with a common language will never suffer lacuna. You and I agree with that. When you have a common language you speak, your heart is one everything. So it is expedient to adopt a well-spread spoken language that can and will unify Africa or Africans. So if not for anything but trade, investment, tourism, relationship, removal of racialism syndrome, immigration, integration, and a lot more, this is very important to endorse one African language. And now VisionAfric come up with a very particular, interesting language. So among 5 major languages in Africa that cut across regions with appealing factors, Swahili, Yoruba, Fulani, Hausa, and others, research shows that Swahili has gained over 150 million across Africa with a proven record. So we recommend Swahili language as our official language for the new Africa we want, as we encourage a quick educational reform policy and agreement bill among the African nations. VisionAfric has also set up a committed committee that will be working with other volunteers on this project. And another thing is road network. You were asking me about my vision for Africa, Vision 2050. So I need to explain it at least to some extent so that you understand that this vision is a mandate to ensure we become global superpower. So lack of African development is through transportation, mitigation. It is practically inappropriate and misappropriatization to disable the road network across the 3 main medium: land, air, and sea. Okay, so especially road network can be overemphasized as it is the soul of national dynamic navigation. There is already a brilliant development by AFCTA and they are doing well. So practically speaking, the unity of Africa is of this concern. It is high time the leaders agree on terms and investment solutions. And that is what I can call mission number 1, restoring the dignity and values of Africa and Africans across the globe. When this thing comes up, we'll be able to have it. Now, the other one that is very, very paramount to me is African one currency. We are talking about unification of Africa. It's strategic. And I know, kudos to our past heroes, Gaddafi and co, that they came up with this, and I'm taking it up. And I'm letting the world understand, and also especially the African leaders. Lack of this will not give us speed. But let me say that this can be overemphasized. So VisionAfric projection is 5 to 10 years from now. That is from now to 10 years, which means between now and 2050, Africa's one currency will be on the globe by the special grace of God. We are really, really into this. So unfortunately, with our devalued currencies, the strength of any nation is in their currency. You and I know that. And if we can control the global market, then we can sit among the world decision makers, let alone become a global superpower. It is very therefore important to know this. The new Africa we want, which I can affirmatively call the United Nations of Africa, UNA, today will be achieved by the virtue of strength of our unified socio-economic agreement of African leaders, but much more Africans on African world currency. My dear brother, VisionAfric is setting up an African Economic Intelligence Committee that will embark and develop good reserve architecture on future currency. Just have to let you see the perspective and the visionary plan that we have for Africa.
So how do you see Africa's potential to become global superpower despite the challenges it currently faces?
Africa can become a global superpower irrespective of the advancement of some part of the world. The possibility within the stipulated times between now and 2050 is achievable. It's very, very achievable with the available numerous resources if and or when all potential things are on deck through collaboration and investment capital. Africa was a nation by roots, and it is expected to remain so by commitment and unified interest of Africans. The sustainable characteristics of Africa are too leathery to let her encounter destructive, anti-productive power, kingdoms, and fusion of colonization by extension in colonization. So the distribution of economic power is visibly embedded in all African regions. I don't know how much you know Africa, but I'm telling you today that, interestingly, the spread and advancement of the world started from Africa. And again, by the human, mechanical, and scientific capital of Africa, the world is sustained. So Africa should not be caged in any way, should not be caged with suggested ancient structure by strangers and selfish interests of invaders, where some fat bones, I call it fat bones of Africa, were manipulated and captured in exchange of peanuts and stomach infrastructure of the then leaders or fathers who by trust were deceived. So I want to say the rebirth of Africa as one nation is legitimately important to be addressed as a capital tool to reposition and gain back stolen economic vehicles and channels of independent authority on every single resources material for Africa's statutory. I'm so keen to this. I'm very intentional about this. Africa is rich, Africa is rich with all the thoughts, ideas, institutions, arable lands, etc., from one dispensation to another, and it is fundamental concern to fix separate borders, travel restrictions. This is what we must do to give us what we need. Scattered and devalued currencies, economic disintegration, microsatellites, insecurity, fungi water, expensive and unreliable telecommunication, etc. We need to fix all these things in the quest of achieving the dreams of our heroes, that is the past heroes, and the heart cry of African child, both the living and the unborn. If you even the unborn are crying out. Leading intervention must be by intentional proactive measures to engage every dot for Africa's true emancipation. Now, let me now say to you that African leaders must stop begging their colonial masters. They need us more than we need them. And that's the truth, the bitter truth I speak to you today. African leaders must stop begging their colonial masters. As a matter of fact, they are no more our colonial masters. The past is past, it's gone. So we are more needed, to my own view and to my understanding. A recent report shows when India, your country, stopped asking IMF for loans. That was in 1991. And since then, the story of India has never been the same. Am I right? That is it. So for our information, India has just launched, has just launched aerospace recently, few months ago, if not July. I don't want to quote errors, but few months ago. So leadership sacrifice is the game changer to achieving the expected result of any country. How much sacrifice our leaders, are willing to pay for their citizens determines progressive result. Until then, it will be difficult to attain Africa's true emancipation. But I want to say, the day you are old enough and matured in all the extended to get married, that is the very moment you become a man. Until then, you are still a regular feeding child. So I believe Africa is matured very to become a global superpower.
So can you provide insight into the impact of AVA 2050 on job creation, education, and economic development of Africa?
VisionAfric's plan is to raise 100,000 billionaires and 200 million millionaires before 2050. Through job creation, with our economic intervention recovery plan, it focuses on creating an African blue economy for the true emancipation and development of Africa. We have mapped out strategic mechanisms with the collaboration of concerned African, I call it active organizations. So with African Global Economy, that is what we are presenting now, that is AGE, African Global Economy, AGE. African Textile Museum, African Tech and Innovation Tournament, then Global African Records. I've mentioned it before. We will have this done. Through these interventions and mechanisms, we are believing that it's going to be possible. All things are possible.
So in conclusion, what message would you like to convey to Africans worldwide and supporters of Vision African mission?
We are trusting God for everyone to come out and give us the best. Are you with me? To give us the best in their expertise, their endeavors and things like that. We want them to come together. We want them to see this vision. And we are saying Africa is home for everyone. Yeah.
So Vision Africa emphasizes the importance of collaboration and investment capital. How can government, private companies and individuals collaborate to bring about the desired transformation of Africa?
Number one, patriotism. Number two, visionary domestic plan with think global and act local ideology. Number three, value integration. Number four, African supporting Africans. It's a movement meaning African first. Okay, African supporting Africans. This is a big deal. This is a big deal and a true reflection of how we want to be addressed by other nations. Out of many smart moves of Donald Trump, mentioned him today, my first time interview, when he was a president of America. His word was, and his phrase all over, about America. And he said, America first. And I know some people, including we Africans, might not like that affirmation from him then, but somebody from my own hand, somebody like myself, I do like what he said. And that is what I call intentional patriotic heart of a leader to strengthen his own sovereignty and territorial integrity. So I'm hereby saying today that Africa first, and that is what we are going to do.
So could you share any specific success stories or key milestone that Vision Africa has achieved on its journey towards AVA 2050 goal?
I can only say God has been so awesome. I give reference to God, appreciate Him, and everything about me anyway is God's doing. But I will point out one or two things that we have achieved so far, and it's a honor and privilege as well to be part of these visionary driven people, purpose driven people, excellent people with heart, patriotic individuals. That at the beginning it's like as if how's it going to be? How are we going to achieve this? It's big, but when you see all these people coming together, it is achievable. So by His grace, we have appointed 11 country directors, including USA, India, Nigeria, Lesotho, South Africa, Namibia, Tanzania, Uganda, Angola, Ethiopia, Ghana. You see, within a short period, and these country directors, they are grounded and they are working tremendously. More than 50 project department committee has been established. Our petition on free visa or borderless Africa is a huge success, as some of African leaders have taken necessary measures about it. That's a lot for us, and we are expecting other leaders to follow suit very soon. And within a short period of time, we have collaborated with companies like Badu, in USA, African Textile Museum that I was talking about, USA, Black Wall Street as well. That's a huge success. And UNACC, United Nations of, Unity of All Nations for Climate Change Council. This is a huge success. Then United Nations as well. We have received approval from that end. And we are 80%. I want to joyfully say to everyone across the globe, to all our African brothers and sisters, that one of our aim is to ensure we are financially independently free. Africa must be free, and this is the only way. So we are working seriously on our e-bank, and we are 80% done now. So it's a lot of achievement for us, and it's a lot of huge amount of money that has gone into this, and huge number of land has also been acquired. We announce it in due time. It's a huge blessings and achievement so far that God, and many more, we are putting everything in place, and I'm very sure before the end of 2024 is going to be wow across the globe, that Africa is heading towards global superpower through VisionAfric's.
So as we all know that media plays a pivotal role in shaping public perception. So how does Vision Africa plan to work with media to create a positive and empowering narrative for Africa?
We also call on our African brothers, sisters, experts, professionals, philanthropies, and organizations across the globe to join us for the true liberation and transformation of Africa. We need them. We need the media. It is what, in the one word, to answer your question, I call it collaboration. That is the way we can move Vision Africa forward. The media should see their potential expertise regards to this, and if they truly love Africa, I used to make use of patriotism. When you are not patriotic, then your nation cannot move forward. So let the media, let them collaborate. We are asking them, we open our arms, we want them to be part of what we are doing. As a matter of fact, they are the one that can project. You as a person, if not because you collaborate with us, you will not be projecting this vision. So I want to even pause here and say thank you, government. Thank you so much for pushing our message out there. So collaboration is the way forward. Collaboration is the way forward. Thank you.
So one of Vision Africa's objective is to create a universal directory of African descendants, companies and organizations. How will this database be used, and what benefit will it bring to African community?
There's what we call African Global Directory. This is a digital African market village for the United Nations of Africa, UNA. It stands to create effective integration materials, and data collation of African globally. It is a new tech practical solution that will foster afrocentric and ensure accuracy for easy accessibility and connection of Africans. AGD will be launched immediately. Credible hands are ready to roll up their sleeves. ADG will integrate Black Wall Street, all African products, companies, services, and other relevant information, which will be accessible as a digital and offline, that is BUGA. That is what we are planning.
The AVA 2050 agenda involves significant investment in infrastructure and mega projects. How does VisionAfric's plan to secure the necessary funding for these initiatives?
Well, what we have here, we believe that creating generational wealth for Africans by Africans, it must be by intentional funding pool mechanism by VisionAfric, and we know something for sure. If we are intentional, it is possible. So we came up with $1 global campaign, $1 global challenge investment project intervention. What does that mean? It means that our investment will give us the expected result. A borrower is a slave to the lender. That being said, I am thinking and I'm saying that African leaders' perpetual borrowing tradition from the colonial masters, IMF, World Bank, has made Africa under the low bed of the Western command. That is what it has become over the years. So I'm saying inability of African leaders to create or generate wealth for Africans through strategic mechanism has subjected every African citizen to remain at the mercy of Western currency and environmental bait. But to be intentionally ready and apply strategic intervention against perpetual financial insult on Africa, there is a need for an urgent possible tool to generate expected funds for African sustainable development project and plan implementation. We therefore believe that the salvation of Africa from the grip of colonial masters is possible by collective, proactive effort of Africans across the globe through private and public wealth generation vehicles. I will tell you that several methods to actualize the call to action. VisionAfric is taking the lead in the initiative of a global challenge financial donation through patriotic African organizations, companies, associations, and individuals who see the possibility of true emancipation of Africa and its transformation for the United Nations of Africa. Within a short time, we can do that. So I am saying, as a reminder to all of us, power belongs to the people. So it is on this note, a call to action is now, and it should not be taken for granted, or else African leadership continues in their political Maradonic belief against its own citizens with micro-palliative and crumbs bait. I can say enough is enough. Enough is enough. The question is, what can you give to Africa? Should not be a debatable conversation, but a steering action by all Africans across the globe to plug into an intentional financial donation as one of the vehicles to drive visionary sustainable projects. And we believe that this will help us. As earlier said, VisionAfric has initiated a transparent, secured, and trusted common purpose with a financial proofing team whose track record and antecedent are without fraud, scam, or defamation date. I have maintained, by the grace of God, high level of integrity with proven record. These people also, they are in this arena. Africa is 1.4 billion in population, and for realistic and quick response by the concerned patriot, we call on only 100 million people that will be able to give us, out of the total 1.4 billion anyway, that will be able to give us $1 monthly or $12 annually. Apart from other VisionAfric wealth creation vehicles such as e-commerce, e-bank, and other financial generation strategic modules for our line of sustainable development and transformational mega project, the $1 global challenge is capable of leapfrogging the down slope of African economies as we plan, believe to making Africa a home for all Africans. So this is what I can say with regards to this, and I believe it's doable, and you are going to also be part of it.
So could you elaborate on the role of African Intellectual Resource Organization and other key partners in supporting AVA 2050's goal?
I may not know that of other key partners, their main interest or major focus that they want to do for Africa or VisionAfric or through VisionAfric, whichever way. But African Intellectual Resource Organization is taking a very strategic role in the area of leadership, diplomatic training, policy making, and so on and so forth. So this particular area, where we know that the problem of Africa majorly is the leadership. So African Intellectual Resource Organization want to create policies, or we create policies rather, and then give us a very wonderful module, leadership and value creation that will help individuals and other organizations that are ready to work with us, even including AU. We need leadership training. Practical leadership intelligence needs to be integrated in all areas and all fields. And this is what AIRO, African Intellectual Resource Organization, will do.
So Africa's diverse culture and traditions are a significant part of its identity. How does VisionAfric plan to preserve and promote these culture aspects in its initiatives?
VisionAfric came up with Global African Record, GA. GA is our initiative. It's an initiative, I said other time, is an Afrocentric Glamour Award and records for Africans who exhibit outstanding skill, talent, and expertise, and those who have created tremendous impact. So GAD is created to sustain African value-driven talent. It will help us to know the true potentials of Africa. We want to celebrate all our African brothers all over the world, people that have done a lot, and people that are also getting ready to put Africa on the globe. We believe GA will help to formulate strategic ideologies, and it will also help to promote the culture, the legacy, the health, and everything that has to do with entertainment and value of Africa and Africans. So that is our plan. GA is the key to your question for the development of Africa.
So what steps are being taken to ensure that the benefits of AVA 2050 reach all segments of African society, including marginalized communities and rural areas?
We have been able to connect various countries through our country directors and committee volunteers in different professions. That is the step, and we believe this one will help everyone to come to the table, and because there's something I call sense of ownership instead of sense of belonging. So you must ensure that you own this. So every one of us, that is why we said Africa is home. So as long as we know that this is my own, this is our own, then we'll be able to do it properly. So everyone, every area, every nook and cranny will be reached, and we've started it already with our country directors and committees.
So AVA 2050 aims to reshape and rebrand Africa. How does VisionAfric plans to overcome any resistance or skepticism towards these changes?
The removal of socio-economic barriers and psychosocial defects is what I know that can remove the skepticism towards the changes we are talking about. And I said, for ages, Africa has suffered disparity, inequality, racism, segregation, and marginalization by those who Africa has helped with our resources, both human and not human. Even till date, till now, the technicality migration through intentional bait like job opportunities is still very much available as it magnets Africans to migrate. This is what we believe that will help Africa. That is what we have in VisionAfric, and we are proposing it for all the African leaders to see that 2050 will reshape and rebrand Africa if we are able to remove this barrier.
So in terms of education and skill development, how will AVA 2050 ensure that Africans are equipped to participate in the high-tech industries and innovation sector of the future?
I call it Africology, through what I call Africology. Africology can simply be defined as an Afrocentric pattern of African mind, consciousness, content, context, scientific culture, belief, psychosocial variable, economies, resources, values, proverb, colors, image, dignities, configuration lines, and independence of African's age. The synchronization of African philosophy, or the deepness and cardinal of our rebirth, we go through revolutionary intelligence community through scholarly and indigenous belief for paradigm shift. So what I know is that prospectively, geopolitics is a scientific system for functional interests that must unreservedly conform with historical similes and metaphor of African context. A narration that needs overhauling with information and communication power. Adventurously, The wealth, riches, languages, and fashion of Africa called for a new educational order. And that's why I bring out the word Africology. So Africology is a Pan-African study, a proposed fundamental theoretical solutions on African values, African value-driven pattern for total liberation and emergence of the Africa we want. This is what I believe will help us.
So as we conclude this enlightening conversation with His Highness Dr. Favour AYODELE, founder and global executive chairman of VisionAfric's, we are inspired by the vision set forth in the AVA 2050 agenda. Dr. Favour insights into the transformative initiative AGE, ATM, ATIT, GAR leave us hopeful for Africa's future. The journey towards a united and empowered continent is a collective effort. To our global audience, let's actively join and support VisionAfric's mission. Together, we can shape a narrative that reflects Africa's strength, resilience, and potential. Thank you, Dr. Favour, for sharing your visionary perspective. Your leadership paves the way for a brighter Africa. Thank you very much for your time on our show.
Thank you so much, my dear brother. Before you go, there is something that I need to tell the entire Africans, and it's just one word. Africa is home. We have a lot of work to do. There's no time, okay? There's no time. And if we don't do it now, we do not walk the talk, we can be busy talking when the Western and other continents are busy working. It is time to also get ourselves into the reality of our potentials. Let's get the boots dirty, but with clean hands. Let's get our boots dirty. Let's come and walk the talk. So thank you so much and God bless you.
My pleasure, sir.